Brothers and sisters of the Creed, hear me. Where other men blindly follow the truth, remember, nothing is true. Where other men are limited by their morality or law, remember, everything is permitted. We work in the darkness to serve the light. We are assassins. Do I know Assassin's Creed? Oh, yes, actually I do. In fact, I can tell you that every squirrel in the world knows about Assassin's Creed. Oh yes, it is a video game franchise so well loved by squirrels. You know, not just the video games, but also the novels, the comic books, and even a movie that was made. Yeah, there was a movie that came out 3 years ago. Overall, what is Assassin's Creed all about? Well, it is about two warring factions since ancient times called the Brotherhood of Assassins, who are the good guys, and the bad guys, the Templar Order, who are descended from the Knights Templar from the Crusades. Yep, that would be them. In fact, the first game was centered on the Crusades, and once you know it, there were the Templars. Yep. And so, what mostly Assassin's Creed focuses on are present-day people who are actually descendants of the Assassins. And there's also the Templars having descendants as well, running a company called Abstergo. And they have practically invented a machine called the Animus, which allows its user to visit any of the memories of their long-deceased ancestors. Yeah, I don't know the science behind it, but I think the ancestor DNA is embedded into the descendant's DNA. And what the Animus does is that it scans the user's DNA and looks for those lost memories. That's very interesting. I wish I had an Animus. I'd very much like to know about my ancestry. Assassin's Creed has such a huge fan base, although the squirrel population of the fan base is probably bigger than that of the human population. In fact, there were even fans who made fan-made art of squirrels dressed up like the assassins. I especially love that picture of that one squirrel dressed up as Ezio. Of course, that was a Photoshop trick that someone did on their blog. Yeah. Oh, and there was someone who did who recorded a video of a squirrel who did a leap of faith. In fact, that someone called that video the Assassin's Creed Squirrel Edition.
I can't deny your eyes, your face. Oh! Ja, Mann, das hat einen riesen Satz gemacht und ist voll aus dem...
Hey, I know that squirrel. That's my old buddy, Ralph. He works as a stunt squirrel, and he's a crazed fanboy. We all love Assassin's Creed. And yes, that means we also love Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I seriously don't know why people hate that game. Now, is the movie good or bad? Well, in the past, we've had a lot of bad film adaptations to video games. I mean, you name it. Doom, Mortal Kombat. But yeah, there were quite a lot of movies that just did not match their source material very well. And, I may not hate the Assassin's Creed movie, but I do have the decency of giving out both pros and cons. In other words, I may like the movie, but I will admit that it's not perfect, even for a film adaptation. Before we go into the good and the bad, let's talk about the plot. Just so you know, there may be spoilers. The assassin of this movie is Aguilar de Nira, and he is played by Michael Fassbender. He is an assassin from during the era of the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
No, not that Spanish Inquisition.
The Inquisition. Let's begin the Inquisition. Look out, Sam.
Not that one either! This is a more serious Spanish Inquisition. Okay? In present day, Aguilar has a descendant named Callum Lynch, also played by Michael Fassbender. Lynch. Wow, that's a very catchy name. As a boy, Callum witnesses the death of his mother by the hands of his father. And then his father tells him to run because the Templars are coming. And then we skip to Callum as a full-grown man who is facing death row after killing a pimp. What if the pimp was a very bad person? I mean, really, what, you get executed with lethal injection for something like that? Wow, but anyway, focusing on the movie, focusing on the movie, Callum is executed with lethal injection, or at least he thought he was executed, because after the injection, he wakes up someplace else. He wakes up to Dr. Sophia Ricken, played by Marion Cotillard. She is a scientist for Abstergo, and her father, Dr. Alan Ricken, played by Jeremy Irons, is the CEO. Without providing him with any explanation, Abstergo wants answers from Callum's ancestor, Aguilar, about the location of the Apple of Eden. Now, for those of you who are not entirely familiar with the Assassin's Creed franchise, there is more than one Apple of Eden. I don't know how many exactly there are, but there were several of them found. In fact, this is not the same apple obtained by the assassins during the Crusades, nor the one obtained by Ezio. No, it's not the same apple. Well, they hook Callum onto the Animus, where he visits the memories of Aguilar, who was an assassin on an important mission for the Brotherhood of Assassins to find and rescue Sultan Muhammad XII's son, who has been abducted by the Templars, or the Spanish Inquisition themselves. He has been kidnapped by the Templars in exchange for his father to surrender the apple to them. Sophia has concerns about Callum's health, because, there are dangers to prolonged exposure to the Animus. This was said in the video games as well, but exposure to the Animus in this movie is actually a lot more harmful than the usual Animus. Yeah. But her father, Alan, he wants Callum to be in the Animus at all times. Yeah, never give him a break, because he and the other Templars are on a strict deadline. He promised the lead Templars that he was going to deliver them the apple very soon. And, well, he wants to keep to his promises and not give out any more disappointments, because he has actually abducted other assassins with bloodlines related to the assassins from the Spanish Inquisition era, who are responsible for hiding the apple. Yeah. And they could only pinpoint one of the ancestors, Aguilar, as one of the protectors of the apple, and that Callum is the last descendant of them. After his first visit from the Animus, Callum starts hallucinating Aguilar, and as it turns out, this hallucination is actually teaching Callum how to fight. Yeah, they're feeding fuel to the beast. That's what Abstergo is doing. Big mistake! The hallucinating is what Sophia calls the bleeding effect. And yes, that was actually in the video games, so that's one piece of source material that they kept right. Perhaps one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Callum goes to the cafeteria and meets some of the other captive assassins. One of them being Musa, who's descended from an assassin himself. And many of these characters are actually descended from assassins from the video games. No joke! No joke at all. I especially love it when Callum tries to eat this apple, the fruit apple, and one of the assassins stops him and says, "You're going to give them the apple." And then he corrects them, saying, "No, I'm going to eat it."
Hit boy's got to eat. He got to have his supper.
Thanks, but I would rather eat the apple than whatever that is. Oh, wait. Yeah, there is this one scene that I want to talk about. It's supposed to be this scene where they forcefully put Callum back into the Animus. I'm afraid that I am the one responsible for this scene, and I heard that it received a lot of negative reception from audiences, and rightfully so, because, well, it was my fault. In fact, you know what? Let me just play this one clip right here.
I'm crazy. I'm crazy, crazy for feeling so lonely.
Yes, I did that. I was on vacation one time, and I visited the set of the movie. Yeah, I visited the Assassin's Creed movie set. And what I did was I snuck in and I rewrote part of the script. Yeah, I rewrote part of the script. In fact, to be more precise, I rewrote the film's final script. And that was the line that Fassbender ended up saying when they were finishing production. Yeah. That was definitely my fault. In fact, I wonder what Michael Fassbender's reaction might have been after the film was released and he had watched that one scene. No! Yeah, I was afraid of that, so, excuse me while I write him a check and an apology note. After Callum is nearly killed by his second visit to the Animus, Alan decides to motivate him further into using the Animus despite his health by introducing the fact that, Callum's father is still alive, and he's one of the prisoners, one of the failed subjects to the Animus. In fact, he lost his eyesight. In fact, I'm pretty sure he lost his eyesight. I couldn't see the pupils in his eyes. And so, Callum is reunited with his father, played by Mad-Eye Moody? How? I couldn't recognize him without the big fake eye. His father reveals that he had to kill his mother in order to protect the secret of the apple. And she died, willingly. Of course, this does not repair the relationship between father and son, as Callum decides to obey Abstergo by going into the Animus, willingly. The other assassins tried to stop him, but failed. And so, he visits the Animus, once again visiting the memories of Aguilar and his friend, the other assassin, Maria, I believe her name is, and they finally rescue the Sultan's son. Yeah, by killing this big henchman, Ojeda, and goes after Thomas, I can't pronounce his name, I'm just going to call him Tom. He was the ruler of Spain at some point, yeah. And he goes after him, manages to grab the apple, and he gives the apple to Christopher Columbus. Wow, what a twist. And so, Abstergo is able to find the apple at Columbus's resting place. Oh, yes, and there was actually one part I forgot to mention earlier, that, Sophia told Callum that if he helped them in finding the apple, they would let him go.
It's a trap!
Yeah, I mean, obviously. I mean, it's a typical movie cliche. Do you have any idea how many movies have had villains saying, oh, if you help us do this, we'll let you go? And then turns out they don't let them go?
That's just lazy writing.
I hate to say this, but yeah, it is. Even for this movie. Upon exiting the Animus, Callum starts seeing the ghosts of all the assassins who came before him. And here's the interesting thing. One of those assassins looks like Sophia. I honestly don't know why, and they never give an explanation for that, no. Unless they're saving that explanation for a sequel. If there's one ever made, that is. And so they exchange the assassin vow. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. And then he starts fighting for the present-day assassins, who have been left behind by Alan. Yep. Callum and the other assassins track down Alan and the other Templars at the Templar Sanctuary in London. And as it turns out, Alan was never going to bring about the cure for violence that he promised. Now, like all the other Templars, he wants to use the apple to bend all free will for mankind to kneel before the Templars.
Kneel before Zod!
Callum kills Alan and swaps the apple with a fruit apple. And, well, Sophia vows revenge for the death of her father. And so she decides to hunt down Callum Lynch. Oh, yes. They do say that revenge is a dish best served cold. Or, in this case, it is a fruit best served refrigerated. Anyway, what is there to say about this movie? Well, it's actually canon, yeah. It is affiliated with the storyline of the video games, which comes as a very rare occurrence when it comes to film adaptations. I mean, it used to be, as always, that film adaptations were never tied to the story of their source material. Oh no, definitely not, because they would always have a story that's so different from them. Well, the Assassin's Creed movie is more of a spin-off for the series. And I definitely know that it's canon. Other than going to the fandom wiki site, there's also the game Assassin's Creed Origins, which briefly mentions Dr. Sophia Ricken. And she was the one who invented the Animus in Assassin's Creed Origins. You know, the one used by Layla Hassan. Yeah. Now, okay, yes, just because something is canon does not automatically make it good. I understand that, definitely. In fact, I will definitely understand that there will be people hating this movie for the same reasons why they hate Resident Evil Vendetta. Now, I don't see anything that violates the source material of the video games. I mean, they got a few things right, like the creed. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. They got that right. And the visuals of the eagle, they got that right as well. And also the big leaps of faith. Which, yeah, in the video games, you jump down towards hay piles and leaf piles, though realistically, you can't do that, because even if you do hit the pile, splat! You're still pancake once you hit the ground. Yeah. Now, we squirrels can definitely jump down at very far distances. Not every one of us can. In fact, my twin brothers, Myron and Marvin, can't because, well, they're overweight. But anyway, yeah, the whole leap of faith thing, that was correct, and, Caesar! Caesar! What is it? It's Myron! What about Myron? He's on top of that very tall building. He's gonna be doing a leap of faith. What? No! Do you have any idea what will happen if he does that? I'm gonna go call 911. You do that. Other than that, this movie does have a very good casting. Well, it would seem that every movie that casts Jeremy Irons is getting hated. I guess that's the price he pays for not saying no to Dungeons and Dragons. Also, this does not look like a low-budget film. I mean, all the sets taking place in Spain, I mean, all the scenery, that would require a big budget. Yeah. Well, the scenes taking place during the Spanish Inquisition, yeah, that would require a budget. I mean, there would definitely be some props they build, and maybe some CGI in some areas. Oh, and, yeah, that stunt, you know, did the very big leap of faith. Someone actually did that. Yeah. That was a real stunt. No CGI on the person jumping. Oh, no. That was really awesome. Now, as for the cons, I will admit that some parts of the film felt like they were rushed. I will admit to that. And, we've all seen how violent the video games are, and yet this is a PG-13 rated movie. Given how violent the games are, I think it would make more sense for the movie to be rated R. But I am not going to nitpick on that part, even though, yes, that does call for being an imperfection. And, oh yes, and Aguilar, and also all the other characters from the Spanish Inquisition, they don't get a lot of screen time. No. I mean, in the video games, the ancestors pretty much have the huge bulk of the story, okay? It was pretty much their story, as much as it was the descendants' story. And, I just wish that they had focused more on Aguilar instead of on Callum. That's just my opinion, really. Although, I think there were a few other people who said the same thing, that they kind of wish that the movie focused more on the assassin. Perhaps the biggest complaint from fans was the Animus. It looks and behaves very differently from the Animuses in the video games. Well, my owner and I had a theory that maybe this particular Animus is a prototype of all the other Animuses. Yeah, it might have been the first Animus ever constructed, since it seems to let the user sink into the Animus within a shorter period of time, and also it does not seem to translate any of the foreign languages. Yeah, have you noticed in the video games, even though you have characters from Italy, maybe some characters who are Native American, like Connor from Assassin's Creed 3, or maybe the ancient Egyptian characters from Assassin's Creed Origins, and the ancient Greek characters from Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Have you noticed that every single one of these characters would speak English? Well, it's possible that in the video games, the Animuses were translating all of those languages, so that for anyone who was tapping into the Animus would be able to hear and understand what all of the long-deceased characters are saying. That's possible. Although, the Animus in this movie, it did not seem to translate any of the Spanish characters properly. Yeah, in fact, in this movie, the characters from the Spanish Inquisition era, none of them speak English, which is very different from the video games. No, they're actually speaking in their native tongue. And, they actually had to translate what they were saying from scratch. Just like that one part where they were translating what Christopher Columbus was saying. In fact, that was how they were able to identify him and where to find the apple. That might be it. The Animus is probably the first of its kind, and the other ones, the ones in the video games, are probably later models. Because in Assassin's Creed Origins, it is said that that Sophia Ricken not only gave an Animus to Layla Hassan, but she actually made that one. And it is hinted, possibly, that she could be the very person who invented the Animus in the first place. But that's just speculation. I'm sure there are other people with different theories. Anyway, it's not the best movie made, but I will admit it is better than any other video game film adaptation I have ever watched, okay? You all remember Doom? You know, the film adaptation from 2005, not the one that's coming out this year? That was terrible, okay? That was the perfect example of lazy writing and not following the source material. Now, there is some lazy writing in the Assassin's Creed movie, but it's not overall, thank goodness. Oh. It looks like the ambulance is coming to collect Myron. I told him not to do a leap of faith, idiot. Well, thank you all for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Bye!